Hello, sir. How are you doing today? This is the 2 Minute Quarantine podcast, and we will be talking about how coronavirus has affected the United States or and our personal lives, um, just socially and legally. So, Henry, how has coronavirus affected your personal life?
Um, if I gotta say anything, how it's affected me personally, it's been pretty disruptive, honestly. I've had to come back to a good old Omaha, Nebraska, and it was just as I expected. It stayed the same. So I would have really preferred, like honestly, I would have preferred to stay on campus and just study there. But like with this whole e-learning thing, it just hasn't been the greatest, honestly.
What
At least
aspects of
that's how
e-learning
COVID
haven't
has
been so
affected me this
good?
quarantine.
Well, what aspects of e-learning haven't been the best?
Um, I guess like Zoom has been fine. It would be more of like recorded lectures and having to take the time to get to them and like dealing with the situation at home sometimes. Like sometimes it's not the best time to get learning in general because either family or like events going on in your
You
life.
mean your
It's just
little
like
sister?
yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Specifically that. But
Okay.
other
Um,
than that, I'm like it hasn't been the worst. It's just I just wouldn't have preferred to do e-learning.
okay,
Like
fair.
I don't know about you, but for me, honestly, I just this just told me that like I don't think I can ever do online schooling because online schooling just doesn't seem to be worth it. You know, I'd much rather be in the classroom, listening and taking notes.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I feel like it's just so much harder to like be at home with family, with friends, not with friends because quarantine, but be at home with family and like just cozy. The being at home is just really cozy. So like after a lecture, I'd go eat, and then I'd knock out. And then the struggle would be get out of bed in time to go study. So that's been
Mm-hmm.
my problem for like most of this second half of the semester. Just getting out of bed and telling myself, hey, you need to study and or you need to do work or you need to do this. And it's been a lot. I feel like on campus it's a lot easier just to be like to get out of bed because oh hey I get to see my friends or hey I have to walk to get to lecture so I can't just kind of sleep through it. So like it's a lot more hands on, and it's just the environment at school is just built to make people learn.
It's made to make you go and do work.
Yeah.
Don't end up just lazing off and not doing what you're supposed to do. You know.
Yes. But as far as your city, I know in my city we've kind of not released. We started the company's back up right now. Pretty much everything is open. Even the shooting ranges are open because hell Tejas. But like everything is opening up. But of course people are still kind of like wary about going out. They're like, oh, still like wear your mask, wear your gloves. In fact, there's a fine for $1,000 now if you don't wear a mask.
Oh, that's serious. Damn, they catch
Ooh.
you. They're
I mean,
like $1,000 now. Oh,
Henry, I can bleep
I'm
that
so
out.
sorry.
I can bleep that out. It's fine.
I'm
More
so
editing work
sorry.
for me. More editing work for me.
I'm
All
so
right, but
sorry.
it's fine. It's fine. I can. It's fine. But so we seeing people still like kind of affected by this is well of course it's going to be affected by it. It's still prevalent today. In fact, if we look at the JHU source right now, can you pull that up real quick? Can you pull up the
Not
source?
me.
Yeah, while I
Yeah, I can.
while I
I
talk.
can get it up. I got it. I got it. I got it. I got it. Then you
All right.
want me to share screen?
Mhm. I'm pretty sure it's around 420,000 who have been affected by COVID, but I'm not sure. It shouldn't
What are
be.
we looking? US map.
Yeah. Or are you looking U.S. or a world map? Oh wait, hold on. We can let's start with the United States.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, look,
Oh, it's just red. It's just red.
it's
It's
just
just
bad.
yeah. There have been
Like
50.
actually though, I
Oh,
want to like ask you about like how do you feel about the whole reopening thing? Because like personally for me, I don't really think it's a good idea. I don't think it's time to
see,
start.
it's definitely not the time to start. Oh, why are we going to Houston? It's fine. but
Oh, okay.
what's it called? Uh, I don't think it's a good move. Because there's it's still very prevalent in the United States that we can see through the map. It's just it's not stopping anytime soon. In fact,
It's not stopping
I
anytime
don't
soon.
think that the curve has gone down at all. It's just been increasing, and
It's been
um,
increasing more because of like things like the protests and states reopening. It's like if you can look here, like over here, it's just been a steady, nice, steady
that's a linear
incline.
increase
It's just a steady increase. There's no flattening here. It's just still going. So
because
I
people
don't know
stay inside.
who or what thought it would be a good idea to reopen. Might be the White House, but
I mean, okay, and why do you think the White House was reopening though? Like, why do you think they're reopening everything though?
well, it's because like the primary reason, at least I would believe the White House would give, is just the economy. In general, they would say, "Hey, we need to reopen. We need to save the economy." Except at the same time, I just have personal opinions about how we could still save the economy without even having to get everyone back working, right? Like, for example, at the beginning of this, when he also when Trump when he when he activated the DPA, right,
Mhm.
to mobilize so basically mobilize American companies to build and manufacture the tools we need to fight COVID.
Mhm.
I feel so there could have been the place where people who might have been displaced could have found a job, maybe. Like, for example, World War II, we were literally going through a Great Depression. And suddenly, through a war, everyone finds a job, right?
Mhm.
So, just the same, if we have a crisis and an emergency where we need people to create and build things, so healthcare workers can have enough supplies to stay safe and also the tools needed to treat people with COVID, then I feel so we would at least alleviate some of the job loss. But of course, I haven't seen that much evidence, at least on the government side, of them doing that. And honestly, for me, I think the other reason why he's reopening is just for his base, in a sense. Like
Yeah.
it's mainly his supporters who've been trying to get things to reopen for whatever reasons they feel as if they need to reopen, as we can all guess and look at and think about what reasons they have. But I think it's more for his base than for any actual reason, because low key, I don't think he cares about us guys. Like, I think he's fine with us dying. I think he's fine with us dying. I
Wait
think
a
so.
minute. Wait a minute. But this is
I think so.
this is not just the governments in DC that's doing the whole thing. It's doing by states as well. I think the mayor of Houston uh or mayor or I think it was the mayor. Mayor of Houston opened up the businesses and gave like the whole um rundown that I think May 1st is when they reopened every single business back up. And
Same thing here. It was the same thing here. Like our governor was like he's gonna reopen anything that he's closed down, like schools, and schools aren't completely open yet. They've been slightly open, but like restaurants and bars have also been open up here in Omaha.
I think there was this what's it called? Greg Abbott was speaking today, just talking about like how they're gonna move forward with COVID. And it's basically just hey, wear your mask, social distance. But hey, go to the bars, go have fun. Like it's it's purely, in my opinion, it's purely economical. Um, and I don't think the interests of the people are really at heart because I mean you don't want the economy to fail like that. That's just it's the big thing. You don't
I mean,
want.
like yeah, but like at the same time, you don't have an economy if you don't have healthy people working. Like that's just a simple fact that we've seen throughout history or even today. Like like I don't have to point far, just like look back in like, okay, West Africa, like they don't have healthy populations. They have huge populations, big young populations there that could possibly work, but because they have to deal with disease so much, their economy is not moving. So like how can you say we're saving the economy if people are just getting sick left and right and having to go get hospitalized or stay at home just so that they don't spread the disease? Like that's not really an economy if you ask me. That's just no, I'm not gonna use the word I was gonna use. Never mind.
Be
No.
a little bit wary about what the words we choose, but I feel like okay, if we think in short term, if you put people back to work, the money starts circulating again inside the economy. There's people who gain money, people who spend money on goods, and then like you get the money circulating around. And short term, that works, but you're saying long term that
It's not gonna
if,
work unless we handle what's going on right now. At least that's my personal belief. Like I don't see how you can justify um like reopening unless you have like an actual gameplay. You can't just say we're gonna have masks and like gloves and stuff. Like everyone needs to follow this. And as we've seen with the protests, I doubt that every single American is gonna willingly follow this. Like it's just like normal. Like I don't know. I'm just like by reopening, I feel so for just letting danger just be more
oh yeah, no,
prevalent.
for sure, for
Like
sure.
it's gonna make it worse. In my belief, like even if you supposedly save the economy, it's not gonna be worth it. I don't think it's gonna be worth the human cost out result.
There are speculations, which I think are justified, that there's going to be a
Mm-hmm.
second wave of infections and, of course, spread of COVID. There's going to be lots more people getting infected, and I think that graph right there is going to spike a little bit higher for
Yeah,
pretty
especially
soon.
during the summer and fall. Especially actually more in the
Oh,
fall probably.
it's,
Especially when.
I would say summer
Mhm.
because I would say well, there are I guess people saying that the warm weather should I guess kill the disease or like make it harder for it to spread.
It would make
Um,
it harder for it to spread in theory,
in
but
theory, but
I
we don't
think we'll see it
know.
worse. I think we'll see it worse in the fall.
Why is that?
Like the summer will be bad, but it would get worse in the fall because by then I don't think there's any way to stop people from just going out. Then if we've already started reopening now,
I
like
mean, I feel like it's hard to get people to stop like going places now. Like, um,
they're
I
not doing anything to stop people from going places now.
like okay, so like traffic is like you know in big cities like traffic is like just terrible. I don't know if you would know that, but um, it's like when I say there was traffic, because I have to. My sister works at Starbucks, and I have to take her to work a lot of the time. And when I tell you there was traffic during quarantine, like people people didn't care. Like it was hard to get people to care enough to like not go places. And I guess it was like I mean, yeah, you have your occasional people who are like essential workers who are like you know going to workplaces, but
Yeah,
like
it makes sense. That's fine.
you have a lot of people who just kind of don't care. It's like it was too many cars to be like, yeah, okay, everyone here is an essential worker. Because like
Yeah,
sometimes I would drop her off like at 3 o'clock. It's like who is no, who shifts? If somebody shifts at 3 o'clock, I don't think so. But we'll see. But I don't know. I guess
I wanted to
oh
talk about some of the podcasts we have lined up
some of
for
the
our discussion.
oh okay.
Um, do you want to start on yours, Jameis? You want to talk about your social aspects real quick? So why not?
Um I was okay. Well, I guess we can go with the easy one here. Like just social media in general, like the memes and like the things that are being spread around the internet. I think
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any memes on hand with me right now, but I feel like if I say one, it'll be pretty easy
I
to catch on.
I can I can actually show some if I can. I know
Okay,
what you're talking about. There
there's
is.
there's that one I don't know if there's that one like stuffed animal or something like that, like that looks to the side or something like that, and it goes.
Oh, that one.
It's like
Oh,
oh,
that one.
where they say that they call your routine quarantine or something like that. Like it's like oh when you figure out that you've been quarantining for like for your entire life, like okay, all right, cool.
Jesus.
I don't know.
Wait. Um. The one I found was one that was like in reaction to. You remember when Trump was like, just ingest
Yeah.
some bleach and stuff that should
Yeah.
cure it. Found one meme that actually fully showed how ridiculous it was. Actually, I don't know if it's appropriate because it has
Oh.
like has a vaping joke in it.
Ah,
A
okay.
vaping joke.
We can't do that on this podcast. We're PG. What's a vape? So
But, but basically what the meme was just like it showed him it said theme the theme that we do not speak of.
we do not speak of this thing.
Supposedly the oh no.
We don't know what it is.
Sorry. It had that and it said that like it was just like it said Lysol vape. And it just showed him holding it and then just like taking a puff and that was a joke. And then and then the caption was cures COVID-19. It was just like I was just like that's a perfect meme. That shows exactly what it was like hearing that. Like it's just like blatantly this guy doesn't know what he's speaking of. I actually wanted to talk about the states and DC, how that relation has affected this whole um, situation we're in right now.
Okay.
And the podcast I have for that is from the Frontline Dispatch, called called I'm covering coronavirus, right? And the episode is A Tale of Two Washingtons. And basically in this episode, they're talking about how the governor of Washington State has had to deal with the White House not exactly helping out states with this crisis. And something interesting that I didn't realize they mentioned was to increase competition between states just to get resources, which you can see can be bad, especially when there's a national pandemic, right? A global
Yeah.
pandemic that's now across the whole nation. It's not just focused in New York or California or Washington. It's in every single state. Every single state has had at least one death. And it doesn't take much for one to know that if states had to deal with getting supplies on their own, it's going to cause trouble, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, as I've been thinking about this, and talking about it in general with people I know, like my family and you, Chime, of course, at times before this, just take much one to realize that the Constitution gives federal government certain powers to deal with things like a national crisis, or not to do with the Constitution, but allows the government to do things on a national level, right?
But
For example, making deals on a national level for every single state to be able to tap into resources, correct?
yes.
For example, they can make a grant that could allow states to use that money to buy supplies, or they could just make deals themselves with suppliers. For example, with the same DPA, they make deals with suppliers themselves, so that way states don't have to struggle to get PPEs and ventilators, right? Like that's something that doesn't take a genius to know. That's simple government facts that I would imagine the president of the United States would know, but evidently he does not. He seems to think that he can reopen the whole country and not, buy supplies because he's got it right. He's making America great. I love this man.
Okay, let's dial back on the. We don't like this guy. let's focus on the source here.
Yeah, sorry. Basically, the source goes into what it's like for the states to deal with, especially for Washington themselves, what it's like to have to deal with a competition with the federal government when there doesn't need to be one.
Okay, fair. Then again, didn't Trump disband the pandemic crisis people, like the group that their sole job, the task force that was like their sole job is
task
to
force
like,
that you put Mike Pence on because Mike Pence knows what he's doing.
You didn't say it. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
I stopped myself.
Lord, you're making
Sorry,
this hard.
This is just.
But yes. It certainly is a lot harder to deal with something like this when you don't have the people in place to deal with this type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, I feel like if everyone kind of just stayed inside, we wouldn't really need a pandemic control task force. Um,
Mm,
well,
no, we need.
okay,
So
okay.
we need. So we need that. So we need that for information to know what to do. Because
Okay,
here's
so
the
they also
reality. Sorry, what are you gonna say?
so they also provide information on like what is going on, like as far as like how the virus is spreading and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. Yes, then we need.
Like we need them just because like we need experts to like for example Fauci. Most of the things that we now know in general as an American public have come from um from Director Fauci. So like without the information he gives us, like we would be in trouble, right?
Yeah, we'd be
And
all
without
right.
that task force, we would be in trouble. But I was actually going to say, reaction to that, the other podcast I have from covering coronavirus, warns to Washington, um, warns to the White House, actually mentions the fact that I don't have the transcript here, of course, but it mentions the fact that Obama's administration, after Ebola outbreak in West Africa, had actually created a pandemic control group within the White House.
Mm-hmm.
Like they already created a group that's sole purpose was to stop and deal with pandemics.
Mm-hmm.
In 2018, the Trump administration chose to disband this for reasons we can all guess and know why he
To
chose
get
to
more
disband it.
funding for the military,
No, not just simply that.
but just more funding in general, right?
Not just more funding, but also a thing to put up against Obama's administration because a pattern that has shown up in this administration has been putting a lot of blame on Obama for the current pandemic,
Yeah.
and also a thing in general for the past 4 years has been dissolving anything that's from Obama years, including, I guess, a pandemic control team within the White House. They disbanded this, and then in late 2019, they get reports that, hey, there's a possible pandemic, which they sit and do nothing on, which this podcast also actually focuses on. I actually, just a recommendation to both our listeners and to you, Chime, you should listen to these 2 episodes because I promise you, you can learn quite a lot about how the White House has dealt with this crisis, more than just what we hear on CNN. But like the fact that federal agencies, the same CDC that's supposedly doing nothing, has been sending warnings to the White House that this can get bad.
And it got bad. In fact, it's still getting bad.
And it got bad. Well, that's crazy, Chime. The
Henry dial back. Henry dial back.
The public experts whose sole job was to tell you what's going on. And what do you do as a president? You just sit there and do nothing. You just put your hands up and like, ooh, more people will die. That's a sacrifice I'm willing.
That's a sacrifice I'm
willing to make. Like actually a meme that actually another meme that so like you've been talking about that like that's probably actually popping up a lot is the one with Farquaad saying that several of you will die. That's sacrifice I'm willing to make. That was made back when like the British Prime Minister actually kept the schools open. So like Boris Johnson keeps schools open, and that's the meme that was made. And now here's the actual reality in which our president is like, several of you will die for this economy. That's a sacrifice that I'm willing to make. People voted for this. Just remember that. People voted for that, man. Right? What do you got to say?
Let's go to the source. Let's go to a different source. I feel like I know you haven't exhausted what you have to say about this man, but we've exhausted what we have to say about this man. All right, let's
I
go.
got more. I promise. I got more. But let's go to what you got.
You stop.
You got.
Let me share my screen.
Okay, I'm done. Done sharing.
All right. And I'm gonna go to the same document that you were sharing, and go down to see the racial disparities impact. Oh wait, I think I have that actually. Yeah, I have it open. Okay. So, we can listen to this. Wow.
No, there's news articles. Hmm?
Alarms have been raised this week that the coronavirus is having
Where'd you go?
disproportionate impact.
Can you not hear me?
color.
No, I can hear your
As the
thing. I
nation's
just can't see what you're.
There's still a lack of overall information about the race and ethnicity of victims. NPR's Juana Summers.
Like so many families across the country, Martin Camper's family is grappling with their. On March 28th, his great aunt died after being hospitalized with coronavirus in Baltimore.
It's lonely, I guess, is the fact that you're kind of like the only one I know who's experienced this, but then also the fact that we can't get together as a family to grieve, right? I can't visit that side of the family. We can't have a funeral. We can't have a service.
His cousin was hospitalized too. She died 7 days after her mother. They are two of the 124 Maryland residents confirmed to have died from COVID-19, which the limited data available shows is hitting Black and brown communities hard across the country. Dozens of lawmakers in Maryland have been pushing for the state to report data on coronavirus cases broken down by race and zip code. In Baltimore, Council President Brandon Scott introduced a bill this week that would require the city's health commissioner to do just that.
We know that in Black neighborhoods in Baltimore and brown neighborhoods in Baltimore and poor neighborhoods in Baltimore, certain zip codes, your health determinants are significantly different than those in others.
Health professionals and advocates say having this data will help communities of color get the resources they need to recover.
Now, it's been said that the virus knows no race, no color, no socioeconomic status. It treats the wealthy and the poor the same. That's not true.
Dr. Stephen Thomas is the director of the Maryland Center for Health Equity at the University of Maryland, College Park.
The impact of this virus will follow the same patterns that we see in other diseases in our country, which is that there is a differential outcome for racial and ethnic minority groups.
Maryland's Governor Larry Hogan announced Tuesday the state would begin providing a racial breakdown of its coronavirus cases. But he cautioned that there may be initial gaps in the data because 90% of testing is done by private labs.
Doctors send them to national labs that aren't in the state of Maryland, don't keep that kind of information, that aren't required in their state to keep the information, that aren't required by the CDC to keep the information. And so it's hard for us to gather the information.
Maryland started releasing some of that data for the first time today. The state is about 30% Black, but in cases where a person's race is known, Black residents make up more than half of deaths. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has been under increasing pressure to release more data and to be more transparent about the toll of the coronavirus on communities of color. Kristen Clark is the executive director for the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law.
We need the CDC to begin publicly reporting racial and ethnic demographic data. We need this data with respect to COVID-19 cases, tests performed, and fatalities.
The Trump administration has acknowledged this problem this week. On Wednesday, the CDC released some racial data for March hospitalizations in 14 states, including Maryland. It showed that 1/3 of patients were Black, suggesting that Black populations might be disproportionately affected by COVID-19. Juana Summers, NPR News.
Okay, so this was on April 9th.
And now, more from NPR.
Stop. Please stop. Please stop it. Okay, I think it stopped. This was April 9th, so it's May 5th, Cinco de Mayo. But the cases have definitely got risen in Maryland, and as we can see, at the time, not being able to visit family, not being really able to do anything, kind of hits home. Like, if you know somebody who is if you know someone who's affected by COVID-19, and you can't really do anything because you risk catching it yourself, you risk passing it on to someone else, kind of just put yourself in danger. And I find it kind of ironic that there was another, along with the memes, there was a meme going around saying, "Oh, Black people are immune to the coronavirus." It was a really weird.
That's something, yeah.
A
yeah,
really
beginning of
weird
this whole
thing. It was like, "Oh, we're more resistant to the coronavirus. We can't get it."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here we are now, and most of the deaths, or okay, not exactly most, but like a
A
very
majority
significant
of
portion of the deaths have been Black
African
deaths,
American deaths.
especially. Have been
And it's,
African.
and especially in Baltimore, where like Black communities tend to be in the poor communities, and like the person was saying in the interview, it's already hard for poor communities to like get good health care. It's already hard for
Yeah, to
them
get
to like,
resources.
yeah, and their health is like bound to be a little bit less um than maybe rich neighborhoods. Like they have the
Hmm.
resources they need to be healthy, while poor communities don't have the resources they need to be healthy. So they're already at risk. So if they
Yeah,
get it, then not in they're not going to be able to fight it just as well. So
yeah,
I find it interesting that I was really finding it interesting like the flip flop that's happened between this whole thing, and people starting to actually take it seriously now when this was like released. Because I know for a long time, people that I knew, especially some of my friends who are African Americans, just like, "Yo, didn't you hear it? We're immune. It's not a problem." It's
yeah,
like, no,
yeah.
I don't think we are. Don't think we are. And
No,
then,
like actually, like what you're talking about. Like I remember, before we had to leave for spring break and never come back for a semester because of COVID. During expo writing, um, one of my peers, one of my classmates, she raised her hand and asked if it was true that Black people are immune to COVID, and I raised my hand and said no. That's a stupid idea to have
no,
because
I mean,
no, you need to understand because it's like if we even look in like okay, our own history, right? Our own history as Black people within America, there's been this common misconception that tropical or what's seen as tropical diseases or diseases that deal in more of the tropics, right?
mhm.
Black people are supposedly immune. Like for example, the smallpox outbreak in Philadelphia, where Benjamin Rush and other very smart and influential people said that Black people were basically immune to the smallpox, right?
Mhm.
And said that Black people should take care of the people who are sick with smallpox, only to find out that
They're
Black people
not.
were just as equally affected by smallpox. So that's why I was like, when I saw like in the earlier stages of this that like people were saying like, "Ooh, Blacks are immune to COVID," I was like, that's dangerous thinking to have. Like just because it hasn't reached the African continent yet doesn't mean that we're suddenly immune because it just hadn't reached at that time. It just hadn't reached West Africa or okay, not just West Africa, but sub-Saharan Africa. And that's why we were convinced that if you're dark skinned, some you're immune. No, it just hasn't reached there yet.
Yeah.
We don't, and we're
Oh,
still
can we
human.
see the like what's it called? Can you pull up the map to see how it's
Oh,
affecting Africa?
sure. Um, Wait, sorry. This is in the way. There we go. So, yeah, as of right now, I haven't heard much about it impacting Africa as much as it has the West. As of right now, Western nations have been taking it harder, like Europe and America. They've been the ones taking it
Cool.
because they have, I mean, it's just general trends. They have more people with chronic conditions. It's easier spread because of urban communities, but you can look at Africa and see if this will load. This is
Oh,
low. But here, yeah, and let's like look specifically at sub-Saharan Africa because that's where this misconception started. It's like here is Ghana with
18 deaths.
18 deaths and about 3,000, at least reported, of course.
Mhm.
Nigeria, you got also about 3,000, but more deaths. You can also look at South Africa. South Africa has had close to 7,572, 148 deaths.
So
Like
significantly less than a lot of other
significantly
countries.
less than most of the Western nations, but at the same time, it is still spreading. It is still an issue. For
And
example,
oh,
I
sorry.
know that at least in Ghana, they've been having to take more restrictive measures, especially on Sundays. They've had to tell people don't go to churches. They've had actual troops out on the streets of Accra to make sure that people don't, go out and do things because they want to handle this right and they don't want to deal with it spreading too much. Of course, this is just
Oh,
bread. It's not
yeah.
good. It's not good.
Oof. I mean, okay. Then again, as far as like we can't do you think the data, at least in Africa, would be uh probably skewed a
Would
little
be
bit just
reliable.
because? Yeah, is it just as reliable as
Reliable. It's iffy because that would make assumptions that like because of the governments they wouldn't be reliable, which is honestly in most cases a very correct assumption. Assumption to make about reporting. I would argue though that at least based on how the situations look there, I would say they've probably been more honest than some other nations. Like if we were to look at places like, for example, Russia and Germany, when they were reporting their cases, people pointed out that the way that they're reporting them is actually very iffy and not the best way of actually tracking and reporting cases. For example, Germany would only confirm a case until after the person has died.
Ooh, that's
So
interesting.
we wouldn't know how many cases were already in the community in general, or it's not even like we wouldn't know, but it was like you only knew more about like how many cases based on death than said like they tested a large portion of the population and oh, this is how prevalent it is. Like you only know how many cases there are based on when they have basically died, right? And in Russia, like Russia suddenly just stopped like having cases suddenly one day, and it was just like okay, clearly
That's Russia for
that's
you.
not
That's
how
Russia
it
for you.
works, right? No, like clearly that's not right. I mean, I don't know if you've heard, but like they've been also been talking about like in cases like China when China wasn't honest about it, at least at the beginning of the crisis when they were trying to hide it and say that like oh there's no disease here, there's nothing going on, and then next thing you know there's a disease, it's everywhere. You call it COVID. It's a nice little friend.
His name is Corona.
His name is
It's a cute little
Corona.
dog.
It's a cute little. It likes to bark a lot, you know.
Likes to play with other people. Okay, but we are kind of getting out of time. So, any
Well,
last? We kind of running out of time because I feel like we've run
yeah.
over 30. But are there any like last thoughts that you have? By any chance?
Any last thoughts I have? You've
I
heard most
should
of
not
them.
have. I should not have asked
You've
that
heard
question. I should not have
most of
asked
my
that
thoughts
question.
already.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. No, I'm not gonna go too off. And basically, my conclusion for all of this, at least on legal side of it, is I think if there's one lesson we have to take from this is the need for autonomy within health, like within government health agencies. Like I'm pretty sure we've all learned this already, but the CDC has quarantine powers that they can use, especially in emergency. And you would imagine that the CDC would have used this power in a case like this very early on. They would have been able to tell a whole state, hey, this whole community, you have to stay locked down. Like, we're going to keep you locked down. We're going to have to enforce it because we can't have the disease spread, right? But you never saw Trump or anyone anyone within the White House give the order to do quarantine, right?
Yeah.
And I realized that this means that I think at least there's a need for, they can't just wait for the president to give it. If they themselves have determined that there's an emergency that they need to implement quarantine powers for, right, they should be able to do it without having to deal with whatever legal or constitutional issues
Yeah, it should
are.
be said as a state of emergency, something that could be just said like right away, like, "Hey, everyone, quarantine because this is going to be good for you and good for you, for everyone else. And if you leave your
Yeah,
house without being quarantined, then we're gonna have to do something." And
yeah,
okay, as far as my last thoughts, I feel like this whole crisis has just proven that the American government is not good at handling a lot of things, and American people in general are not good at following rules or knowing what's best for them. As proven with Kentucky protests,
yeah.
as proven with just a lot of
Irresponsible behavior
just a
from
lot of
Americans.
irresponsible
A lot
behavior.
of irresponsible.
You
Like,
see those?
there's no way to sugarcoat it, honestly. Like we
It's
would like to say nice things, be like, oh, they just don't understand. No, it's really irresponsible. It's really not smart. It's clear that like it's not even really beliefs anymore. It's just this act of
there should not
defiance.
be like it's not like, oh, I believe that I should go outside. It's like, no, you should stay inside because you're putting yourself in danger and putting others in danger by going
Hmm.
outside. And a lot of people just don't know how to get that through their brain.
No.
It's oof. I feel like it would have been a lot more effective if people stocked up on other things and we were just in quarantine for 30 days. Like no leaving at all. Just
Just
lockdown.
just have the order. Just nothing. Just like make
But
sure you're staying home, and we're gonna like.
but that would definitely not happen because the government doesn't, because we care too much about the economy, which makes sense. And
Makes
it's
sense,
kind of frustrating that like you can't really
but like
do what you have to do.
I said this earlier, but like, there's no economy if there's not a healthy population to support it. Like, you can't support an economy without people. Like,
Yeah,
that's a simple fact. And like,
yeah,
actually, I was gonna say like something that actually frustrated me, at least with states that did stay-at-home orders, is they'll do the order, but I feel some states hesitate to actually enforce it.
yeah.
Like several states
There's no
hesitated
enforcement.
to like it's not
There's no enforcement.
you need to enforce it. Like
Like
you can't just expect
the
people to
amount
just
of constables I've seen just sitting around, like I promise you, there's been this one constable around the store that hasn't moved in the past 5 days, and it's just there. He doesn't do anything. He's just there. And
that's nice.
these are supposed to be like National Guards coming out and saying, "Oh, making sure that Houston is enforcing the mask on thing." I have
Yeah.
seen so many people without masks. I got an MRI today and saw someone inside the hospital without a mask. We don't care in Houston. We
Like
don't care. It's not
it's not
okay.
good. That's not good at all. Like that I think the lesson here that I think Americans need to especially learn is rights are nice and all, but rights are only nice when there's not a present danger that limits those rights already.
Mhm.
Right? Like you can't have freedom of speech or press or assembly, especially assembly, if there's a disease that kills assemblies. You know, when you get together, it just takes you out. No, we can't have that right if it's there. So what we need to do, and I feel so what we need to learn is, and something I learned very early on in high school is we have rights, but the rights can be limited as long rights are limited as long as it protects the population, other people.
Mhm.
Like this is
Like,
something that I learned early on, and it's something I hope that everyone now learns is your right or my right begins where your right ends. Right? Does that make sense? As in,
wait.
explain it as in like your right to protest and go outside should not infringe on my right to stay alive.
Okay. I got you.
Your rights end where mine begin. Okay,
Okay, I got you.
and that's like a basic concept that is at least what I was taught was something within the American Constitution. Like you cannot go and do things with your own rights if it infringes on other people's rights, and I think that's something we need to learn, especially from this crisis.
Okay. All right. Well,
I'm sorry.
Henry, you're on a roll today. No, but we can end that right here if you'd like. Remember to subscribe and hit that bell. I appreciate y'all.
Appreciate you too.
Thank you
2
for
minute
this.
quarantine out.
Yes, sir.
We'll see you all next fall if there's a fall to look forward to.
Oh my God.